David Lynn was having a day. The sun beamed through the glass walls of his office, illuminating the chaos that was his desk. A half-empty coffee cup teetered precariously on the edge, surrounded by a chaotic array of tech gadgets, some of which he had invented, others that had simply exploded in his face. He was on the verge of presenting his latest creation, a revolutionary app that could predict the best time for coffee breaks, based on your stress levels. He had dubbed it Brew Break. "David, are you ready?" called Lisa, his boss, her voice cutting through his caffeine-fueled frenzy. "Absolutely," he shouted, quickly shoving a rogue circuit board into a drawer, not noticing the email window open on his computer. "Just one SEC." As David shuffled to the meeting room, he accidentally clicked send on an email he had been crafting in the background, one meant only for his best friend, Brad. It read, "Lisa is great, but you know what would make her even better? If she were less intimidating and more like a puppy. Just saying. I might have a crush." Moments later, the door swung open, and the entire team was already seated. David slid into his chair, heart racing. "Hey, everyone. Ready to revolutionize coffee breaks?" Lisa's smile was tight as she held up her phone, the screen reflecting the unmistakable look of a viral post. "David, did you mean to share your thoughts on my puppy-like qualities with the whole company?" A chorus of laughter erupted, and David's cheeks flamed as he realized what had happened. "Oh no. I was just..." Before he could finish, the laughter turned to gasps, and someone shouted, "Wait, what about cyber enemy?" David glanced up, confusion swirling in his mind. Headlines blared from the news feed, "Cyber enemy strikes again, global banking system compromised." In bold letters underneath, a familiar mugshot stared back at him. His heart sank as the authorities mistakenly identified him as the world's most wanted hacker. "David, this is serious," Lisa said, her earlier amusement evaporating. "They think you're behind this." "Me? But I'm just a programmer," David protested, feeling the world spin. "I couldn't hack my way out of a paper bag." But it was too late. The next few hours were a blur. The tech world, which had once been a playground for David's inventions, suddenly transformed into a cold, unwelcoming expanse. He was locked out of his accounts, his friends distanced themselves, and he could practically hear the whispers behind his back. "Did you hear? David's the cyber enemy." As he trudged home that evening, the streets of San Francisco, usually vibrant, felt drab. He ducked into an all-night diner, hoping for solace in a slice of pie and a cup of coffee. The bell jingled as he walked in, and the waitress, a gruff woman named Edna, eyed him with pity. "Coffee?" she asked, filling a chipped mug. "Sure, but make it strong," he muttered, staring into the abyss of his fate. Just then, the door swung open, and a duo of suited men entered, scanning the diner. David's heart raced. Were they here for him, David Lynn? One of them barked. "You're coming with us." In a flash, adrenaline kicked in. He bolted from the diner, his mind racing. He couldn't be captured, not when he had a world to save and a name to clear. As he zigzagged through the streets, he caught snippets of conversations. "That poor guy," one woman said, "being framed like that." Framed? He could work with that. Over the next few days, he delved into the virtual world, determined to track down the real cyber enemy. He quickly discovered a colorful hacker underground that buzzed with energy and camaraderie. It was a bizarre twist of fate. While David had once seen hacking as a threat, he now found himself among people who shared his passion for technology, and they all had a shared enemy. This new reality was nothing like his day-to-day life. David met Maya, a sharp-witted hacker who had the ability to unearth the deepest secrets hidden within code. Their first encounter was hilarious. David showed up with a homemade disguise, a pair of oversized sunglasses and a trench coat that belonged to his grandfather. "Nice look, David," Maya snickered, barely able to suppress her laughter. "What are you, an undercover cop or just a really lost tourist?" David chuckled, removing the sunglasses and leaning against a wall that hummed with digital life. "Just trying to keep a low profile." "Good luck with that. The whole world thinks you're a criminal now." Together, they ventured deeper into the virtual realm. The online space was a whimsical yet dangerous landscape, filled with avatars that ranged from the absurd to the nightmarish. They found themselves in a chaotic battle arena where pixelated monsters roamed, and glitches erupted in bursts of neon color. "This is just like a video game," David exclaimed, dodging a pixelated dragon's fire breath. "Welcome to the dark web," Maya replied, shooting a snarky grin over her shoulder as she hacked her way through a particularly tricky puzzle. "Just don't get too comfy. It's not all fun and games here." Through each challenge, David began to adapt. He learned to wield code like a weapon, with Maya guiding him through the intricacies of hacking. They faced ridiculous tasks, like retrieving a rare data file hidden in a virtual escape room designed by an eccentric coder who had a penchant for dad jokes. "What do you call an algorithm that's afraid of heights?" David pondered aloud, before bursting out, a low larity. "Okay, that was terrible," Maya laughed, shaking her head. "But it's better than the guy who thought we'd actually escape without any hacks." Days turned into nights as they pieced together clues, following the trail of the elusive cyber enemy. The world was vast, and every lead took them deeper into the maze of virtual subcultures. Finally, after what felt like a lifetime of slapstick misadventures and near misses, they uncovered a name: Victor Graves, a rival programmer from David's past who had been silently plotting his downfall. "Victor? That guy was always jealous of my projects," David said, incredulous. "But why would he frame me as cyber enemy?" "Because it's the perfect distraction," Maya replied, her expression turning serious. "If you're busy being hunted, no one will notice him stealing your ideas." With renewed determination, they set their sights on Victor's hidden base of operations, armed with a mix of David's newfound hacking skills and Maya's digital prowess. But first, they had to get through a virtual coffee shop, where the barista was an AI program to analyze customers' moods and serve coffee that matched. "Welcome to Brewception. What's your mood today?" the AI chirped. David couldn't resist. "Awkward." "Ah, the classic 'I'm about to get arrested' mood," the AI replied, serving up a bizarrely colored latte. As they navigated through this whimsical yet treacherous landscape, David found humor and camaraderie among his fellow hackers, finally realizing he wasn't alone in his struggle. But it was also becoming clear that the stakes were higher than he had anticipated. "Once we confront Victor, we need to be ready for anything," Maya warned, her demeanor shifting. "He'll do whatever it takes to keep his secrets safe." And so, they prepared for the showdown that would determine David's fate, steeling themselves for the ultimate battle in a world where every keystroke counted, and every moment could be the difference between freedom and ruin. With their minds sharpened and their resolve strengthened, David and Maya set out for Victor Graves' hidden base. They knew they had to navigate through layers of firewalls and traps that could render them digital dust. David's heart raced, but not just from fear. For the first time in what felt like forever, he had a purpose. "Stick close to me," Maya instructed, her fingers dancing across her keyboard as they entered the labyrinthine layers of Victor's virtual stronghold. The screen flashed with alerts, indicating that they were breaching his defenses. He's bound to notice us soon. David nodded, trying to ignore the familiar feeling of doubt creeping back in. What if he has backup? What if he's got a whole army of hackers working for him? Then we'll just have to be faster and smarter. Maya's confidence was contagious, and David felt a flicker of hope. They pressed on, navigating a dizzying maze of digital corridors. The environment shifted, morphing from sleek corporate architecture to a chaotic realm that felt like a glitch in reality. Neon colors splashed across the walls, pulsating in time with their pounding hearts. As they moved deeper into the stronghold, they encountered a security system that required both their skills. An elaborate puzzle flashed before them, and David could feel the weight of expectation. "Okay, we can do this," he said, summoning his inner programmer. "It's just a logic problem, right?" Maya raised an eyebrow. "Logic problem? This is an algorithm that'll fry our systems if we mess up. Think of it as a really intense coffee break, except if we screw it up, we'll be out of the game." Taking a deep breath, David focused. He started typing, feeling the rhythm of the puzzle. "If we can reverse engineer this part, and then manipulate the access points, we might just unlock it without triggering the alarms. You know, for a guy who was just dodging a digital police force last week, you're sounding pretty heroic," Maya quipped, her fingers flying as she complemented his code with her own. They worked in tandem, a symphony of clicks and keystrokes that resonated with the urgency of their mission. Finally, with a satisfying beep, the system unlocked. "We did it!" David exclaimed, pumping his fist in the air. "Just don't celebrate too soon. We're not out of the woods yet." Maya was right, their victory was short-lived as the virtual environment shifted again, revealing a new layer of security. They stepped into a vast digital arena, where lines of code whirled around them like a storm. In the center stood Victor, a looming figure surrounded by a swirling vortex of data. His avatar was both menacing and eerily familiar, the embodiment of every fear David had harbored. "Welcome, David. I see you've brought a friend," Victor sneered, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "You really thought you could unmask me? I've been waiting for you." "Why, Victor?" David shot back, feeling a mix of anger and confusion. "Why frame me? We were colleagues. You could have just talked to me." "Talked?" Victor laughed, a cold, hollow sound. "You've always been in my shadow, David. This was never about you. This was about taking control of what's rightfully mine. The world of technology belongs to those who can wield it effectively, and clearly, that isn't you." Maya stepped forward, defiant. "You think you can just walk away with everything? Hiding behind your digital fortress? You're about to find out that the underdog can bite back." With that, the showdown began. Lines of code flashed across the screen as Maya and David worked in sync to counter Victor's attacks. The virtual arena erupted into chaos as Victor unleashed digital minions that resembled a grotesque fusion of code and creature. "Get ready, David!" Maya shouted, her voice cutting through the cacophony. "We need to take out his defenses before we can get to him." "Right," David replied, adrenaline surging through him. He focused on the task, using everything he had learned in their time together. They launched counter-attacks, sending waves of data crashing against Victor's minions, each victory igniting a sense of empowerment. But Victor was relentless. "You think you can defeat me? I've spent years building this empire. You're nothing but a blip on my radar." "Maybe so, but every blip has a way of turning into a signal," Maya shot back, focusing on her next move. David, we can do this. Remember the escape room? Use that thinking. Taking a moment to breathe, David recalled their earlier escapades. Okay, I see it, he shouted, seeing a pattern emerge amidst the chaos. We need to isolate his code. If we can hack into his system and redirect his own attacks, we might just turn the tide. Let's do it. Maya replied, and together, they launched their final assault, weaving through Victor's defenses with newfound agility. David felt a surge of confidence as he executed a sequence of commands, reversing Victor's digital traps back against him. With a final flourish, they initiated the final strike. The code erupted in a brilliant cascade of color, a dazzling display of power as it wrapped around Victor's avatar, trapping him in a net of his own making. No! This can't be happening! Victor screamed, his digital form flickering as the walls of his fortress began to collapse around him. We're not just the pawns in your game, Victor. We're the players, David declared, his voice steady. As Victor's defenses crumbled, the realization washed over David. He wasn't just fighting for his own innocence, he was fighting for everyone who had been silenced or sidelined in the tech world. With a final keystroke, they locked Victor out of his own system. The arena fell silent, the digital storm dissipating into a serene calm. We did it, Maya said, her eyes wide with disbelief. We really did it. As the dust settled, David's heart swelled with triumph. But it wasn't just the victory that felt monumental, it was the journey, the friendships forged in the fire of adversity, and the knowledge that he had reclaimed his narrative. Let's get this evidence out, David said, focusing on their next step. We need to show the world the truth about Cyber Enemy. Maya nodded, and together they executed their plan, broadcasting the data to every corner of the virtual world. The next morning, news outlets erupted with stories of the cyber crime ring that had been operating under the radar, led by none other than Victor Graves. As David's name began to clear, the online community rallied around him, celebrating the underdog who had taken down a giant. David felt a mix of disbelief and gratitude. He was no longer the man who had been framed, he was a hero in the eyes of his peers. As he and Maya watched the reactions unfold online, they shared a smile, one that held a promise of new beginnings. You know, David said, glancing at Maya, maybe we should collaborate more often. I could use a partner in crime, of the coding variety, of course. Only if you promise to leave the trench coats at home, she teased, nudging him playfully. With laughter echoing through their shared space, David realized he had not only cleared his name but also found a place where he truly belonged. In the midst of chaos, he had forged friendships, discovered his true potential, and emerged victorious against a foe that had once loomed larger than life. And so, David Lynn stepped into the future, ready to embrace whatever challenges awaited him, knowing he wouldn't have to face them alone.